Hey everyone. When a big company announces layoffs, it can look like absolute chaos from the outside, right? Just a sudden, painful event that completely takes over the news cycle. But what if it's not chaos at all? What if, behind the scenes, there's a very deliberate, very structured playbook? Well, today, we're going to deconstruct that exact framework to see how these massive decisions are really made.
So, that's the big question, isn't it? Is it all just a panic move, or is it part of a calculated plan? I mean, from where we're standing, it totally looks like someone just slammed on the emergency brake. But as we're about to see, what seems like a sudden reaction is very often the final move in a long, carefully thought-out game.
So where does a playbook like this even begin? Well, it's probably not where you think. It doesn't start with a list of names or departments to cut. Nope. The very first step is all about looking outward. It's about understanding the entire world the company is operating in. It all starts with context.
Okay, so before any major action is even on the table, leadership does this huge 360-degree review of everything. They're looking at the market challenges. Are new competitors eating our lunch? They're digging deep into their financial health. Are our profits getting squeezed? Then you've got the external pressures, things like new tech that could make them obsolete. And they have to ask that really tough question about their own growth. Have we just completely hit a wall? This isn't just a simple review. It's like they're building a case file. And that file is what creates the undeniable argument that, hey, something has got to change.
Having a general sense that there's trouble brewing is one thing, but what's the actual tipping point? What's the thing that pushes a company from quiet concern to taking really decisive and often very painful action? Well, it usually comes down to a set of specific triggers that pretty much force their hand.
And here's the thing you've got to understand. These triggers almost always create a domino effect. It might start with something that seems small, like operational inefficiency. Things just get slow, they get expensive, but that can lead to declining market demand because you're falling behind. And pretty soon, you're looking at real sustained financial loss. Or sometimes, a single big event like a merger just acts as an instant trigger. All of a sudden, you've got two of every role. The point is, it's almost never just one thing. It's this escalation of pressure that eventually becomes absolutely impossible to ignore.
All right, so once the need is crystal clear, the decision itself has to be justified. And I mean really justified. This is not about a gut feeling from the CEO. It's about building a rock-solid case using both cold, hard data and a really compelling story for what the company's going to look like after all this is done.
And that justification, it almost always starts with numbers. Cold, hard numbers. A company won't just say, we need to cut some costs. No way. They'll say something very specific, like, we need to achieve a 15% reduction in our operating costs to get our profit margins back to a healthy place. See, it's a tangible, measurable goal that anchors the entire effort in actual data, not just someone's opinion.
And this really shows you the two essential halves of the argument. They're like two sides of the same coin. On one side, you have that quantitative justification, the hard numbers, the headcount, the costs, the revenue. But numbers by themselves, they're not enough. On the other side, you have the strategic story. This is the why behind it all. We're doing this to become faster, to become more focused, to get back to what we do best. A truly convincing case absolutely has to have both, the what and the why.
Of course, a decision like this isn't made in some kind of vacuum. It has a massive, massive human impact. So a really critical part of the playbook is shifting gears from all those spreadsheets and numbers to people. It's about carefully considering every single group that's going to be affected by this decision.
And believe me, the impact ripples out way beyond just the employees who are leaving. Your customers start to get nervous. Is the service I rely on going to decline? Your investors need to be convinced. Is this really for the company's long-term health, or is it a desperate move? Even your partners and vendors are affected. Every single one of these groups has a totally different set of concerns, and they all have to be managed carefully.
And to manage all that fallout, companies create what's called an engagement strategy. Let's be really clear here. This is not just a press release and a canned email. It is a detailed, proactive plan to communicate with, to support, and to manage the relationship with every single one of those groups. The whole goal is to manage the turmoil proactively, not just run around putting out fires as they inevitably start.
And finally, we get to the moment of truth. The company has identified the problem, they've built the justification, they've considered all the stakeholders. Now they have to do the really hard part. Weigh the immense potential risks of making this move against all the promised rewards. And the risks here are They're profound. I mean, the impact on the morale of the employees who remain can be absolutely devastating. Then there's knowledge loss. When experienced people walk out the door, they take decades of invaluable expertise with them. And of course, you're almost guaranteed to see a short-term dip in productivity as everyone tries to adjust. A good plan doesn't just ignore these risks, it anticipates them and builds a strategy to try and mitigate every single one.
So after all that risk, what makes it worthwhile? Well, the rewards are designed to be the direct solution to the exact problems that started this whole thing. Financially, it's about getting those margins healthy again. Operationally, it's about finally becoming efficient and fast. And strategically, it's all about building a leaner, more agile company with really clear roles, one that's actually ready to compete again. That right there is the promised light at the end of a very long tunnel.
So in the end, after navigating this entire complex playbook, it all really comes down to this one question. Is the decision truly driven by a clear strategy? Is it supported by real data? And does it correctly balance the guaranteed short-term pain against the potential long-term survival and sustainability of the entire organization? Answering that question, well, that's what separates a truly calculated plan from a move of pure panic. Thanks so much for joining me.